Hello everyone, welcome to Snap Take. Today we have a special video for you. We've got two decks that I am in absolute love with. We've got the first from our friend Owlgod, who is the master of building this new style of move deck of using Craven and Silk. Most of the decks you've seen came from Owlgod, who has been using this type of deck to win major tournaments. This deck was thrown together for this week's Battle Arena tournament, and shock of shocks, it was super competitive. It lost only to the eventual tournament winner and made top 8. It is a fantastically cool and powerful deck. We'll talk about how to play that one second. The other deck we're going to have today is Keen Koala. That is a member of our Discord, the Marvel Snap Zone Discord, where we hang out in the podcast, hang with the host section, and chat. Keen Koala hits Infinite with Quake. Yeah, you heard that right. Quake every season. And this is the best version of that deck. Before we go any further, what we do here on this channel is we find you the best proven, we're not giving you unproven crap, the best proven decks that can help you get to Infinite, get your Infinity borders, get your Infinity tickets when that part isn't open, be the best version of a Marvel Snap player you can. We get you the decks before the rest of the meta, faster than the rest of the meta. As we do so, we are also doing shorts that have daily strategy takes. These daily strategy takes come from some of the best Marvel Snap players in the world. We're talking the Lambies of the world and others. I asked all of them, I said, hey, what are your best tips for Marvel Snap? And every other day, as a short on this channel, we are bringing you tips from the best to be the best version of a Marvel Snap player you can, along with two new, distinct, original, proven decks a day. Also, you're looking at this deck going, I don't have Jeff and I don't have Silk. Great. Well, stick around because one of the things we do here is we find you card replacements and we tell you the best ways and times to get these cards. So if you sub, one, we'd greatly appreciate it. It would help us out. The likes, the comments, the ringing that bell is super helpful. But we do our very best to not just ask that of you, but to provide you the best value we can in return. We are now on Owlgod's Usain Bolt. I decided to name it Usain Bolt because it moves a lot and it's got Black Bolt in it. Everyone always loves when you explain jokes. Okay, this deck was thrown together for the tournament and has been absolutely rocking both ladder and conquest to an 81% win rate thus far. Sunspot is a nice filler card because you're often playing just a little bit off curve. I would be willing to experiment with Nightcrawler in that spot, but what do I know? Owlgod is one of the few members of our community. I think we're up to like 5 or 6 who, if they release a deck, I feel like I have to talk about it, just so you know. And just in case you're curious, the others are Moyen, Lambie, W, and Dara. And I basically always make Safety Blade videos too, because Safety is a genius. So, like, if those people make a deck, for whatever reason, outside of Lambie, they're not the biggest names in the community, even though they're like the best deck builders. So I try and make sure we highlight them as soon as possible so you can take advantage of it. Owlgod is, if not on that list, crazy close. The reason Owlgod isn't like directly on that list, I think, right now is because you probably don't have Silk, right? You watching this at home, you're missing Silk. Well, great news, Silk misser. Next week, in Spotlight caches, Silk, X23, Nebula. If you've been hoarding Spotlight caches like you should have been because there wasn't anything to open for the last week, grabbing Silk and X23 seems incredible. Nebula is one of the best one drops in the game. You should be going for this. This seems like a great way to get ahead. You may be missing Jeff. And hey, remember how we talked about Nightcrawler for Sunspot? Run Nightcrawler for Jeff, you'll be fine. The rest of these cards are Series 3 cards. You should have them or be able to replace them with the stuff I just said, right? Okay. So Craven is freaking phenomenal here. You've got Polaris and Spider-Man to move cards on Craven. You've got Captain Marvel to go to Craven at the end of the game, which basically makes Captain Marvel a 7 power card. Jeff and Silk bouncing on and off the card is the real power combo here. We tried to make it work when Craven first came out, but our builds were just a little bit off. Now, Miles Morales is an unbelievable play. What you very often want to do is end up going Sunspot into Craven into a card like Silk, and if you can tie where you play Silk right, your next turn will be either a Polaris or a Spider-Man with a Miles. and that works fantastically well. There's another really great opportunity to play Miles, but we'll get there momentarily. Um, the opponent has so much trouble making a game plan as you are moving their cards with Polaris and Spider-Man. It's really, really easy to fill and lock an opponent lane to know exactly how much it takes to win. Captain Marvel gets played somewhere that, generally speaking, will help you lose priority, but be able to move where necessary. Remember to keep Captain Marvel off Craven so that you can get that potential 7 power last turn play. The game does recognize that as a winning play. We talked about Miles, and we'll talk about the other time to play Miles because on turn 5, your best play is very often to Black Bolt. You can also conceivably play Captain Marvel and Miles just fine. If you can play Black Bolt, you're getting rid of a card in their hand and getting really valuable information in the process. Like the lowest cost card in hand seems like it's going to be a nothing burger, but like very often it's a real card. Anyone who's been playing Mirage should realize the exact same thing. Sometimes you get like a 4/10 out of Mirage, right? Sometimes playing Black Bolt discards a real card that they planned on playing. So your last turn of the game, you have multiple choices. If you played a Black Bolt, ideally you played it on your Silk or move Jeff that turn, as the case may be. Either way, you'll have a 1 cost Miles. If you haven't played him yet, you'll have a 1 cost Stature. That's 11 for 2. Seems like a good rate, and you can play those with your Enchantress, assuming you're losing priority. You can play those with your Captain Marvel, your Spider-Man, your Polaris for a crazy, crazy powerful last turn. And it's not like that 16 power, which is what we're talking about here, is so wildly powerful in terms of numbers, right? It's that it's so unpredictable. It's moving things around. It's being able to negotiate how much power you need where in order to take over a game. Also, as you're moving things around, don't forget your Craven is growing. Black Bolt and Stature is one of the most powerful combos in the game that got pushed out when they both lost 1 power. It's still one of the most powerful combos in the game. It was King of Swiss in this week's Snap Battle Arena tournament. It is constantly at the top of the meta if you look at the stats in Dark Owlgod stuff. Stature and Black Bolt probably belong in more things. They're still a top tier package. Of course, you're not always going to have the Black Bolt Stature play for the end of the game. Sometimes you have Magneto, and this is a Magneto meta. The most played deck right now is Darkhawk, although Thanos is coming up fast. The most played deck is Darkhawk, and the second or third is Surfer. And Magneto does a great job of saying, I know you think you had a plan of where your power was, but you don't, and instead I win that lane. You can pull Magneto into a lane that has cards like Black Bolt and Captain Marvel, and just go over the top of those decks in a way they can't deal with. Also, because Magneto's being played last, he's relatively safe from Shang-Chi. You can play him to pull things over, and then even if you get Shang, it doesn't matter. You've given up 1 lane to win the other 2 and win the game of Snap. I think this deck is sick, and I think you should probably start trying it out and playing it as soon as you can. And if that's next week, please, please, please tell me you've been saving Spotlight caches. I've been telling you, those longtime viewers know, I've been telling you from day one, you should be hoarding Spotlight caches until you have 4, targeting specific weeks. Well, next week with Silk and X23 is the week we've been waiting for, with a new card and a Series 5 card that many of us want in the same bundle. All good? Let's get to the next deck. Catch your breath. Our next deck is Keen Koala's Infinite Quake for August. Keen Koala, as I said at the top, hits Infinite with Quake every single season. This deck has 3 Series 5 cards. The only one that's remotely replaceable is Jeff, as usual. It has 2 Series 5 cards and a Series 4 card. Please excuse me. It has Jeff, as usual. Jeff can be a Nightcrawler. It's less power, but you're fine. And Quake is amazing. Silk, you'll get next week. And hopefully you bought Legion, the best card of last month. This deck looks relatively similar to that last one, right? It's got several of the same cards. It's got the Craven, Jeff, Silk combos. It's got Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Miles, and Spider-Man, and Magneto. So it's like 80% the same deck, but it plays so differently. It's one of the beautiful things about Marvel Snap is that you can have a deck that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the same cards, and the last 5 will make it play differently. So what you generally like to do is get a 2 down on 2. Wait, Silk is the best one, if not Silk, Craven. Then you want to Storm where you didn't play that 2. That can be mid, that can be kind of anywhere. It doesn't super duper matter. Then the next turn, you want to play Quake and another 2-drop, generally speaking. Now, the stormed location is going to move. They've been trying to stack a location that is now open, and you've either got a 2 there or you've got cards like Silk and Spider-Man to get in there. If that caused a move, your next turn is very likely to be Miles and Kingpin. If not, Captain Marvel is totally fine. Now, you're almost never Legioning on 5. Legion is for very specific situations. We'll talk about them in a minute. Then you play the next couple of cards on 6. Hopefully another 2-drop and a 3-drop, right? And finally, on turn 6, you are dropping Magneto or Legion to pull everything, to change everything up, and make the game one for you. The opponent can very often do absolutely nothing about any of these plays. If you got Kingpin out, Magneto on that Kingpin is going to freaking dominate this. Just so you know. Like, it's going to kill some cards. It's the only time you're really getting the Kingpin off, but it's such a good time, it's amazing. If you don't have Quake, you have a different playline, right? You still get a 2 down, and then you storm a location, and after you storm the location, you play Juggernaut on it, and the location is usually 1. We all know that from playing Surfer, right? Now, turn 5 is present, and you don't want to get rid of that with Legion, but you should have a 1-cost Miles. So you're playing Miles and either Kingpin, Spider-Man, or Captain Marvel, whatever the situation calls for. Be careful with your Spider-Man. You don't want to accidentally lose your Storm Lane, but you're relatively safe because that's 10 power from those cards. You can also Storm and Spider-Man, by the way. It does a decent job. Not as good a job, but a decent job of winning Storm Lane. And you've still got Jeff who can get in there too, so don't stress it. At that point, you've got your turn 6 Magneto, move some stuff around. I love Magneto on Captain Marvel. It tends to move stuff over, and either you just win that lane straight up with the 17 power or more you had there, or Captain Marvel flies off to win you the game elsewhere. Nice and simple. Of course, there is the other playline, right? The Storm Legion playline. This is one of the best decks at getting that playline off. You play whatever 2, again, you really, really want it to be Silk, and then on 3, you drop here. It is usually Spider-Man to get the move. Like, you need Silk or Spider-Man to make this playline really effective at winning games and not just like a cute thing you can do. But Spider-Man or Silk are both going to basically always give you a cheap Miles, and then you Storm and Miles on 4, Legion in different places, Legion on 5, and win the game. The other thing Legion does is you see certain locations, bar with no name, I don't know. There's like 6 locations that do this, right? And if you play Legion on them at the right time, with or without priority, Death's Domain, for example, with priority, you can just close out and win a game on turn 5. So Legion has too much versatility to not be in the deck. He is a phenomenal card. This is a very hard deck to play. When you check the comments, you will see King Koala in the comments to this video going, this is a hard deck to play. When he says that, if you have questions about how to play that, ask him. Phenomenal player. Like, you will not be sad to be playing King Koala's decks once you learn them. They are both super fun and super powerful. I am a Quake true believer. Quake is legit. Quake is the best card that you are not playing in Marvel Snap. That's our 2 decks for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, if you got to this point, hopefully I provided you enough value and entertainment that you hit that sub button, ring that bell, leave that comment, let me know what you think. Think today's was pretty good, right? See you later. Peace.